Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and I'm coming at you on a Monday morning recommending that you do your best to hang on to your day job. Now, I know that a lot of us who play video games and enjoy the hobby of video games, we all either have a side hustle, a day job, something that we're doing to kind of get us some money and stay employed. But we're seeing where this economy is starting to take a toll on the jobs market, and there's been a rise in layoffs, and it's happening across a number of industries, most notably the video game industry. And there's an article that came out on that I just was reading here. It came out on the 7th by the Shadow One editorial team, and it says the number of layoffs and cuts in the video game industry sadly continue to grow, with the latest huge layoffs coming from Microsoft due to what Microsoft calls a reprioritization of titles and resources from a variety of companies and studios under their helm. This action caused four well-known game studios to completely shut down, with said studios announcing the sad news today, though their social media through their social media accounts. The known game studios that were hit by these changes and will close down are Tango Gameworks, known for games such as Hi-Fi Rush and The Evil Within, Arcane Austin, developers of Redfall, Alpha Dog Studios, developers of Wraithborn and Monstro City, Rampage, and Roundhouse Games. So, I mean, this isn't new news, right? There are plenty of channels that have already covered the mass number of layoffs occurring at Microsoft. And when I dug a little bit deeper into, some of the reasoning behind these layoffs, it looks like, Microsoft in large part, have been satisfied with, the performance of some of their more recent releases. I think Hi-Fi Rush being one of them. And it's just funny because you can almost never really feel too safe at work. Even if your company is doing great, even if the numbers look good, even if they're, somewhat profitable or doing well in terms of profits, companies will always find a reason to reprioritize or restructure. Anytime you hear words like reprioritize, restructure, regroup, anything, to me, that's just another way of saying we need to let some people go. Because when companies aren't growing at the pace that they want to grow, when companies aren't seeing the bottom line that they need to see, they need to make up that bottom line from somewhere. And if it's not going to come from sales, then it's going to come from cutting costs. And usually cutting costs means cutting employees, because employees are some of the largest costs that most companies are going to have. And I was watching a live stream yesterday afternoon with a pretty cool podcaster, Jack Morgan. He does like a lot of videos about the economy and, inflation and how people can't afford anything. And he had a gentleman on his podcast yesterday who said that he was recently laid off from a gaming studio that he worked at. And, it's really tough, especially when you have a family, you have kids, you have things going on, to kind of get news like that. And it almost seems like there's never really any good time to get that type of a news. A lot of people say, man, it sucks to get news like that right before Christmas. I think it sucks just as bad to get news like that right before the summer, because your kids are going to be out of school. They're going to want to do things during the summer. And, when you don't have a job, when you don't have income, it just becomes very hard for you to, give them things to do. Of course, you can get creative and, spend family time, quality time. There's always a bunch of free things in your area that you can do. You can go to the park. You can attend free events in your local area. But in the long run, having gainful employment is always priority, right? You always want to make sure you're gainfully employed. And so, this is something that we're seeing, again, not just across the gaming industry, but we're seeing layoffs happen at a number of places because, and I said this yesterday in my video, consumers are spending less. The average consumer is doing less spending. I took my mom out for dinner for Mother's Day, and I was shocked at how, I mean, the restaurant wasn't empty, but it definitely wasn't as busy as it would have been, um, you know, a year ago or even 2 years ago. Um, it's things have definitely slowed down, and it's not just impacting, like high end restaurants or high end places, but this is trickling all the way down to just even the fast food level, right? You're seeing where folks can't even afford McDonald's anymore. Folks can't even afford Burger King or Wendy's anymore because the prices are just too high. They're just too insane. And I remember back in the day, one of the ways that you could, ease some of that financial pressure was to cook at home. That was always the famous saying, like, we're going to cook at home today. We're going to save money by cooking at home. But these days, groceries, I mean, you wind up spending the same amount on groceries. A pack of chicken, a bag of rice, or fresh greens, fresh vegetables, buying like fresh fruits and veggies can be pricey as well. Eating healthy these days seems like it's way more unattainable than it is to just eat fast food and food that's just not healthy for you. When I go to the supermarket, I'm constantly seeing the sugary, the sweets, the cookies, the chips. That stuff is always on sale. But, I don't see the healthy stuff on sale as often. And it definitely times are changing. And all this means is that you just want to stay focused, you want to stay on your grind, and you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to stay gainfully employed. You always want to make sure you're sharper than the competition. And then outside of that, definitely try your best to see if there's maybe a side hustle that you can get into, or if there's something that you can do to kind of help generate some extra income. And I guess that's where reselling might come in, right? We sometimes I know the general consensus a lot of times is to not be in favor of resellers, but some of these resellers are just, using it as a side hustle to supplement their income or just get extra income to be able to survive. But I'm really seeing where it's gonna become even more challenging for resellers, not just resellers of video games, but resellers of anything that is not essential. So non-essentials, as we get closer and closer towards the end of the year, are going to become less essential, right? We're going to see sales for those non-essentials slow down a lot more. And if you have anything in your inventory that you're trying to get rid of, I'd say try to get rid of it now. Try to get rid of it sooner than later. May is probably going to be the last month where people have some of that tax refund money to spend or to burn, because most people have probably burnt their refund by now. But if you have those folks who maybe did their tax returns late, in April or mid-April, they probably got their checks not that long ago, and the disposable income is barely there. So I hate to be a downer on a Monday morning for sure. Sucks. Um, but I did just want to show, like, even now, I went to my local thrift store, and they had this sealed copy of Marvel Superheroes, the Lego version, for $4.99. Well, actually it was 25% off, I think, so it was $3.75. But this is where we're at. This is all we're seeing out there right now. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times people find these really expensive games and they're excited because they have these like high dollar games in their collection. But to be honest, the market for high dollar, high value games is shrinking. The only place that you're really going to be able to sell those things like that is probably like your e-store, your online store. But even then, it's slim. It's a small market for those who are willing to spend $300, $400, $500 on a game. It's really just going to revert back to the hardcore collectors who are probably still gainfully employed and have the disposable income to buy those things. So it's a very tricky time, very, very tricky time. But I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on this. What do you think about the current gaming economy and the current economy as a whole, and how viable do you think it is to continue for this hobby, I guess, to continue to grow and thrive. Let me know down in the comments. It's a Y2K collector on a Monday. Hopefully this week treats you well, and I will catch you in the next video. Take it easy.